And I'm Suzy, and this is the Coaching Cast. We are the No Nonsense podcast chatting about the things impacting you at work right now, helping you to survive and thrive in today's ever-changing workplace.
We discuss different topics each episode, sharing our ideas, hints and top tips from our experiences of working in the corporate world, running our own businesses and also being qualified coaches. We also try to have a few laughs along the way too, because taking yourself too seriously is just bloody boring. We really hope you enjoy listening. In today's episode, we're talking about empathy and empathy at work. So we're going to be talking about what empathy means, why it's different to sympathy, big deal, and how you can incorporate it more in your work. So stay with us and enjoy. So before we get into chatting about today's episode, all about empathy, cracking topic, Suzy, tell me what's happened to you. Come on, something must have happened to you in the last week.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, I've got a story for you.
She doesn't disappoint. She doesn't disappoint.
We didn't even set that up. Like, Lisa doesn't know what the story I'm about to tell her. Like, this has not even been set up. Like, no, this is just my life. Like, things just happen to me.
We've been chatting for an hour before recording this, and actually I've heard about a few other things, so goodness knows that the fact there's something else. So this is exciting times. Go on then, hit me with it. What's happened to you?
Okay, so last week I went to Birmingham to deliver a workshop for an organisation. It was really fun, really loved doing it, right, face to face, but I had to stay over the night before so that I was there on time. Also was a train strike. This has nothing to do with the story, but I went on the National Express. How cool am I going on the bus to Birmingham? I thought I was mega cool, thinking outside the box.
That's not what I thought, to be fair, when you told
bullshit
me you were
bingo.
The coach. But I thought you were getting the coach to Birmingham. I wasn't thinking that sounds cool.
I was like, client work, I will be there no matter what. Given the train strikes, I will be there. So I went on the National Express. It was actually really fine. Like, only took an hour and 45. It's got Wi-Fi. I was all over it. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Anyway, that's not the story.
Big up to the National Express service.
Big up to the National Express. So I arrived in Birmingham, perfectly fine. Got to my hotel, all good. Stayed the night, all fine. Got up the next morning, got ready, had a bit of breakfast, ordered an Uber to take me to the location, okay, to run this workshop. Had all my stuff. So I had a suitcase, a little bag, and my handbag. So 3 bags in total. Anyway, Uber arrives. I was like, great, this is it. Guy was like, oh, the boot's not working. Like, the catch on the boot's not working. So do you just want to put your suitcase in the footwell on the back, like in the back, and the bags and stuff? I was like, yeah, cool. So I opened the door at the back, put my suitcase in the footwell, put my other bag on the seat, and thought, oh, I can't get in now, so I'll need to go around the other side to get in the car. So shut the door, and as I shut the door, he drove off. My bag's in.
What?
And I'm not in the car. I've still got my handbag, thankfully, at this point, but he just drove off. And I was like, oh, for God's sake. So I was like, so my first thought was, okay, I've still got my laptop. I can still do this workshop. So that was my first thought. It's in my handbag. I was like, that's fine.
Yeah, I was like, hang on a second. What do you mean he drove off? How far did he go?
Drove off. He just sped off, went off, drove off down the road.
What? He hadn't registered?
He hadn't realised I wasn't in the car.
What? So he actually created quite a distance, I'm assuming, at this point.
Yeah, he just sped off. Like, went. And it was like a corner. He went around a corner pretty quickly. And he was off around that corner and gone with my luggage. I was like,
you didn't go running after him. You didn't go running after him.
I was like waving, and he didn't see me. Anyway, so go on the Uber app.
This does not bode well for Uber. I mean, what does this tell you about an Uber driver? He doesn't even know his passenger's not in the car.
So I go on my Uber app. I'm like, find the driver detail, blah, blah, blah. I was like, right, ring the driver. So ringing the driver on my phone. no answer. I was like, this guy's just gone with all my stuff. Like, I've never seen this person again. And I was like, right, what was actually in it? Like, everything I need to deliver this workshop is on my person. So I'm fine. I was like, but, you know, I've got some clothes in there, a pair of trainers, all
Your
my
makeup,
in there, which, as we know, makeup costs a lot of money. I was like, oh, it's not ideal, but there's nothing like, you know, a massive value. Like I still have my iPad on me, like, you know, all my like tech stuff. Anyway,
this is your actual reaction. Were you not having an absolute meltdown on the side of the road? I'd be fuming.
No, because my first thought was, I still need to do this workshop. Like, I need to deliver this workshop. Have I still got everything on my person to do that? The answer to that was yes. So I was like, okay, that's the main objective here. Like, that is what I'm here to do. So I was like, don't get me wrong, I was like, this is really not ideal. I was like, for fuck's sake, I could do without this. Anyway, so I'm on the app, I'm on the Uber app, right? Rung the driver, no reply. I'm like, for God's sake. People are then seeing what happened and they're like, I can't believe you just drove off. What an idiot. Like, I was like, yep, I know. And then I'm thinking, what an idiot I am. Like, this would only happen to me. Next minute, I'm on the Uber app. I can see the car is like turned around and it's coming back up the road that I'm stood on. So I'm thinking, he's clocked that I'm not in the car.
I would hope so by this point.
But this, I mean, like, about 8 minutes has gone past. I'm like, how has he not realized I'm not sat in the back of the car? Anyway, he reappears and I'm like, hello, hi. And he puts his window down. He's like, and he was mortified. He was like, I am so sorry. I thought you were in the car when the door shut. I was like, no, you told me to put my suitcase in the footwell. I couldn't then get in. I had to go round to get in the other side. I was like, so no, I wasn't in the car. And then you just drove off. And he was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I have never done that before. I'm really sorry. He was dead apologetic. Like, you could tell he was like mortified, genuinely. Anyway, so then I was like, okay, I'm going to get in the car now. So like, just stay there a second. So like, get in the car. And I am actually laughing at this point because I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And he was like laughing as well. He went, I just looked up. I was like, why is the passenger ringing me? Like, so I recognized your number. I was like, why is she ringing me? And I looked in the mirror and I was like, and you weren't sat there.
It's so brilliant. This is like the best. I think this is the best story you've ever brought to the Coaching Cast. I think it's the best story you've ever told me. I think out of everything, I mean, fine, you've had some funny things happen to you. Steve obviously scared the crap out of you last week, but this tops every story.
Anyway, so off we go.
I hope you didn't expect a bloody tip.
Location, no. But then we got there. I did make a joke. I was like, right, there will be 2 door closures. Mine when I get out of this car, and then I will go round and get my luggage out, and then there'll be a second door closure. At that point, you can drive off. He was like, okay, yeah, I've got it. Like, I was just like, oh, for God's sake. Anyway, it was fine. I made it fine. The workshop went fine. Everything was okay. I've had all my luggage. And then, yeah, I made it back on the bus. I made it back on the National Express to Manchester. All was good. But that happened to me. And I was like, of course that happened to me, because weird things like this happen to me all the time.
That is just the best story. Oh, I love it. Yeah, I think that's topped. If we were going to do, like, we talk about having like the best bullshit bingos of every season, I think we should start doing what is the best story of every season. That has got to be that's the winner of this season. That is hilarious. Honestly, I can't believe it. That's just so good.
Yeah, I'm like, is there a lesson in that story somewhere? Just check if you are an Uber driver that your passenger is in the car. I don't know, but it's odd. Anyway, how have you been?
Wow,
how's the injuries?
I've got literally nothing that can even come close to matching that one. Yeah, I'm good. My hand's pretty much healed up now. I'm showing my hand to the video camera for anyone listening only. If you want to see my healing progress, you'll have to go and watch the episode on YouTube. Yeah, no, it's a lot better now. Good. I've gotten over both my physical and my mental wounds from the accident.
Yeah, how is the PTSD?
Yeah, not too bad, actually. I stopped reliving the moment I fell and staring at my shredded hand. And A couple of nights ago, at least. So yeah, I'm all right now. I've moved on. So yeah, no, I'm good. Everything's gravy here, to be quite honest. I'm having a wonderful time. The only thing that happened to me was that I did think was funny, but mainly funny that I got lured into it, was I've started to initiate my singing career here in South Africa.
What?
So I went.
Oh my goodness! Tell me more.
I went to pick up a prescription from the chemist for my husband a couple of days ago, and sang to the cashier on her request, I might add. I was wearing one of my favourite Bruce Springsteen t-shirts that is the cover of the Born in the USA album, which if anyone knows is the famous image of the man from behind with his jeans on. I think that's correct anyway, with the hand in a pocket and there's an American flag in the background. Anyway, the cashier I was paying for the prescription said, "How does that song go again?" And I was like, "Oh, what? Bruce Springsteen song, Born in the USA?" She went, "Yeah." I was like, "What, you're asking me to sing it?" And she went, "Yeah, how does it go?" And I just fell for it. So I just started singing Born in the USA, like in this chemist. And she just kind of sat watching me while I just repeated the chorus. I was really like, this is so weird. And there was another woman in the queue. I mean, and she just kept looking at me like, and I was thinking, has she got this yet? Has she got twigged which song it is? Anyway, I stopped and I was like, I can't believe you just got me to sing in public. And she was just like, yeah, I get the song now. I was like, oh, good. Yeah. Brilliant. Just walked out going, I can't believe I just did that. It was so bizarre. Why did I? Yeah.
Oh my God, if I'd been there, I literally would have died. Because do you know what one of the things is I find most uncomfortable is when people burst into song unexpectedly in weird environments.
Well,
like
there
if
we
you're
go.
talking to someone and they literally burst into song. Like there was a scene once on X Factor. Do you remember X Factor many years ago when it was good?
Of course I remember X Factor.
And Nicole
I remember
Scherzinger,
Pop Stars, The Rivals. Come on.
And Nicole Scherzinger just like used to burst into song randomly all the time, like when she was talking to people, like really like over the top. And I used to hate it. It used to make me cringe so much. And like now it's like a thing for me where I'm like, you don't need to sing. Like now I get it. And like if I'd been there, that would have been hilarious. I would have been like, what? But fair play to you for literally just bursting into song. I mean, it's quite a confident stance and response. Although it makes me feel uncomfortable, I actually celebrate you for being like, no, I'm going to just crack on here and burst into a bit of,
I think it made everyone feel uncomfortable, if I'm being perfectly honest, at the time. The cashier, me, the lady stood in the queue, whoever else was in the pharmacy at the time. I mean, it was a bizarre moment and awkward. I don't know. This goes to show, if you ask me to do something, clearly I just do it without thought, which is a little bit stupid, but there we go. If Dom had been there, he would have literally died. So he's the same as you. He can't cope with any sort of a demonstration of creativity in a slight outward extroverted kind of way. I think he just wants to come up and die. So he would have definitely done it. And obviously Robin Terry can't even watch me on screen, let alone watch me in person. So my dad would have definitely not coped either. So yeah, that's about the most exciting thing that's happened to me this past week.
Well, I'd say that is a pretty good story as well that you've brought there. I would say we're on point this week with our stories. That's good.
You stood in the street with an Uber driver, screeching away with your stuff. It's definitely the best story of the week. You win this week if we were going to do it this week. Is this how we're going to run for next season? Are we just going to say who can bring the best stories possible for their weeks?
I know.
That is hilarious. That is so funny. Right, so shall we get chatting about chatting? I can't speak.
Oh God!
Shall I get chatting about empathy?
Yeah, because I needed more empathy from my Uber driver. That was for sure. So let's do it. Let's go.
Empathy is good for business. An increasingly needed and important business skill that is known to improve retention, drive innovation, develop positive relationships, and support well-being. Suzy and I are big fans. However, it has been a skill that has been traditionally overlooked in its link to job performance. What do we actually mean when we are talking about empathy? Well, having an empathetic approach means having the ability to understand the needs of others, being aware and acknowledging their thoughts and feelings. So let's talk about this in a bit more detail, bring it to life, both in terms of our experience, our understanding, and how we feel we utilise empathy. What, Suze, is your understanding of it in the workplace?
So my understanding of empathy in the workplace, and also my experience of empathy in the workplace, is that first and foremost, it is the basis of really good, high quality relationships. And I'll talk about why that is in a second. I think it's often something that, as you mentioned in the intro there, can be overlooked in its importance in creating great connection with other people, because it's quite intangible. So even when I was thinking about like, well, how do we explain what empathy actually is and bring it to life? It took me a while to really think about, like, actually, how do you describe it? How do you kind of show what it is? So the things I came up with in terms of what it can look like is things like, you know, I'm sorry to hear that when someone's talking about perhaps something that's going on for them or how they're feeling that day. Because essentially, like, empathy is your ability to detect and understand other people's feelings. And if you were a bit like, if you were in their shoes, trying to put yourself in their shoes and in their perspective of perhaps what's going on for them right now, like, how would it feel? And trying to kind of, empathize with perhaps where they're coming from, how they're feeling, how they're experiencing something. So you could demonstrate it in the workplace by saying things like, you know, I'm sorry to hear that, or I understand, and actually truly understand, trying to understand. That intent is truly to understand how they're feeling, you know, where they're coming from, as I've mentioned. And I think if you do that, that's a great foundation for building connection and for building good working relationships in the workplace. And that's been my experience, whether that's relationships with line managers or bosses or senior leaders, or relationships with colleagues, friends in the workplace, you know, suppliers, even whoever it is. Trying to have that element of empathy has really worked for me, I think, as well. And it's something I still do now. Like, even though I don't work in an organization, I work for myself. I am quite an empathetic person, and I try and lead with trying to understand first and foremost before I make a judgment, whether that's trying to understand, God, that situation was really tricky that person's articulating to me. They're telling me they're feeling X about it, or their reaction has been this to it. And then thinking, if I was in that reaction, how in that situation, how would I feel? What would my reaction be? Yeah, probably something similar. Okay, yes, I can understand what they're saying. Like, so that is for me how I kind of bring it into my work now, even though I don't work in an organization. So that's my experience of empathy in the workplace. What about for you?
I think empathy and sympathy can often get confused.
Yes.
And I think they are very different things. I think I'm always really conscious about, when I'm using it myself, being confident that I'm using either of them in the right way and at the most relevant, appropriate points. Because I think empathizing is, as you've described, it's about understanding and acknowledging, and even, I would add, appreciating how others are feeling about anything in a given moment, and giving them the space to be able to process that, go through it, share it, and to be heard and to be listened to in that respect. Which, to be able to support an individual in that way, you will have had to have created a safe space for empathy to exist in the first instance. And that takes cultivating around you yourself showing up empathetically, and therefore showing up in a way that enables people to feel able to share with you. That takes trust to be able to do that, which we've talked a lot about before. And that's then what cultivates the connections, so that actually you're encouraging people to be able to be themselves and to be human. but that requires you to be that way too.
Yeah.
Being sympathetic is different, because being sympathetic is, I've been there and I feel that way. There's that element of comparison, and even to some extent, I think, pity. And I think pity can come from, I think we use pity in quite a negative way, because there's an element that sounds condescending, doesn't it, when you talk about pity? But I don't necessarily think it always has to be in that sense. But I think sympathizing, and I know when I use the two terms, I'm empathetic, and I try to show empathy in situations that I can only listen and seek to understand through another person's perspective, but I can't possibly say that I get the feeling and that I feel it too, because I'm not them, and I haven't necessarily experienced exactly what they're going through. Whereas sympathizing, I think, gives that suggestion that actually you haven't just tried to wear their shoes. In a certain situation, you may have worn them completely, and that, and even that isn't a factually accurate statement anyway, because even if you've experienced a scenario that sounds the same as somebody else, it will never be the same, because you're different people, and that's impossible. So you can't both say, oh yeah, I've been in a car accident, so have I, oh, we've experienced the same thing. That's not true, because even in a car accident you'll have variations, but you know what I'm saying. So I think that's why it's being clear on what the differences are between the two of them, and when you would utilize or adopt one over the other. But I think if you're really trying to build a connection and a relationship with an individual, I would always be wary of being sympathetic, because that puts too much of the focus on you as a person and not the other person, because you become too fixated on your own feelings and experiences, and actually that doesn't enable you to fully support the other person and be there listening and giving them your full focus.
Yeah, definitely. And the key thing here in empathy, if you take anything away from this episode today, CBBs, I would say it's about your ability to put yourself in the other person's shoes, to try and understand where they're coming from.
Yes.
And actually, that is, as Lisa's rightly articulated there, that isn't sympathy. Sympathy is about those feelings of, as you mentioned, with pity, which I know is quite a strong word, and then not kind of having that step in where you are then thinking about, okay, what is it like to be in their situation? You miss that bit out.
Yeah, and you make it about you.
Exactly.
I suppose it's like saying empathy is about putting on their shoes and seeing what it feels like and just appreciating their position. Sympathy is wearing your shoes and stomping all around in their space with them on.
Exactly. Like it. I love an analogy.
I've been sitting here trying to think of what an analogy could be that's appropriate. I'm hoping that works anyway. So in respect of empathy then, and like we're talking about, put on somebody else's shoes and see what it looks like, feels like from their perspective. Like, why do you think this approach is now growing so much and being talked about so much within workplace environments and in the rhetoric around work and culture?
Well, I think it kind of touches and actually links back to some of the stuff we talked about with Helen in last week's episode on hybrid working, which is because, the world, our society, our working environment, our culture, we've been through such a significant change with the pandemic. And that's changed a lot of what we value as people. We didn't have a lot of connection in those years where we were in lockdown. And they were years, although I keep forgetting that.
Years.
It's crazy.
It has been years. You're totally right. It's nuts, isn't it?
And so I think coming out of it, we now crave, or we now value connection with people a lot more, and research does back that up as well. And so empathy really plays into creating connection with other people, and so that's why I think it's becoming more prevalent in the workplace, because that need for connection in the workplace is becoming more because of what we've all been through. And even just with the piece around hybrid working, people going back into the office in order to feel connected to either the organization or who they're working with, or you know, wanting to see people face to face. That is all about connection.
Yeah, because I think the pandemic was a trigger point for so many different things. And actually, everyone's experienced an awful lot of challenging times over those years. But I think this is where this plays in so nicely, because this is where we've all gone through a challenging time. The wrong thing to assume is that it's the same one. Actually, everyone would have experienced it very differently. And I think that's where this is so applicable. To sympathise would be inaccurate, because, and I know this, it got thrown around quite a lot, possibly in the first year of the pandemic in 2020, when, do you remember people were talking about we're all in the same boat? And people were saying you've got to stop using that because it's factually inaccurate, because we're missing out on the fact that actually everyone's boat is different, or whether they were trying to articulate that everyone's experience of the sea was different. God knows. I think the point was the boat, actually. But I think that, I don't think I've clarified this very well now, but I think that was the point that was being made, which is be careful to generalize and brandish everyone with the same brush over experiences, because we're all different and we all experience things differently. And actually, even when the perception is the scenario is the same for all of us, it's not. It's the same event, but how that event is then playing out for everyone is totally different. I think that's where empathy started getting talked about a hell of a lot more, because of the way in which leaders were having to acknowledge and appreciate every individual and how they were coping with the pandemic as it was occurring, and how they were having to flex to it.
Yeah. And remember, you know, empathy is not just specific to the workplace. You know, empathy also forms the basis of good relationships outside of work as well.
100%.
And having that empathetic approach, you know, can work wonders in personal relationships, friendships, etc. So, you know, it's not exclusive to the workplace. It's got many ways that it can be used.
Oh God, totally. I think this is where some of my, I think, more challenging friendships historically have been where, you know, you go out with a girlfriend, you go and have a chat, and you want to offload and you want to get off your chest what you're going through at any particular moment. And the friend, with all good intention, but it's misguided. And I think this has only started to really come clearer for me since I've studied, qualified in coaching and started practicing as a coach. It's that, oh yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah, that's happened to me before. Oh yeah, I know what I did in that circumstance. I tell you what you used to do. And rather than go, I hear you, and just allow you to be listened to, I think that can be another really good distinction of the empathetic approach. And I'm not necessarily it's a sympathetic approach, but the misguided approach of, I want you to feel as though you're not on your own in this. So I'm now going to share with you my experience, but that's not necessarily what you're looking for. Actually, just having the opportunity to talk to someone and have them listen to you enables you to feel less alone. You don't need them to say, yes, yeah, me too. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people, like, slightly off topic, but that's what a lot of people use coaching for. Like, because if you listen to our podcast, you know, we are both qualified coaches, but you might be like, I don't really know what coaching is, but that's what a lot of people use coaching for. It's actually just that safe space to just be listened to
100%,
without anyone interrupting them, without anybody making a judgment about what they're saying, just to literally get it out and kind of help them themselves make sense of it. So if you ever, you know, if you're new to this podcast, or you're new to the world of L&D and coaching and personal development, you're thinking, what actually is this coaching malarkey? That is exactly what it is. And that is how it can help. And empathy plays a big part in that. And, you know, you do find that people who are good coaches have very good, like, natural empathy anyway, because that's just what they're naturally tuned into. So you tend to find them more in that space of working.
The good ones.
Good ones. We won't get into the not so good coaches,
but yes,
because we've all experienced them. That's for sure.
That is a whole other episode. Actually, we did a whole episode about credible coach episode in season 2, I think it was, with Victoria Barker.
We did absolutely do a whole episode on it.
Yeah, anyway. You are right. Empathy is a huge core principle of good quality, authentic
good coaching.
Yeah,
for sure.
So how, talking about empathy then, let's move it along. How can we help ourselves to be more empathetic if we want to grow our empathy skills?
Well, I think building on what I've just said, actually, my first thing would be listen without interruption.
Yeah.
Like, no more complicated than that, but it's actually quite hard to achieve.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
especially
we do
when
it
you
on
really care about the person. If you really care about someone, and it's that hold back the temptation to run in and save them.
Definitely. And, you know, just being fully present, giving that person your full attention. That is phone away if you can. Like, you know, listen, you don't interrupt, you let them fully finish. I know we do it sometimes because we're in full flow and we're like, and you know, it's hard. Like, it's a skill not to interrupt and to listen well. But actually, if you're wanting to bring more empathy into your approach, either in the workplace or outside of work, as we've mentioned, the first thing you can do in terms of how you do it is to listen without interruption, first and foremost. I'd say the other thing is to try and actually give the opportunity to check in with people and just show a sincere interest in other people. You know, just be like, how are you today? Or, you know, what's going on? Like, just show a sincere interest in somebody and just check in with them. And then you got to really listen in terms of what they respond back to you, and obviously try not to then to interrupt. But that's another way that you can try and be more empathetic, I think, in your approach.
Absolutely. I think that the first thing you said, and the irony has not escaped me, that you said listen without interruption, and I jumped straight in there with my enthusiastic approach. The passion and the excitement was too much, so I apologize. I'm not actually walking the talk here today, CB.
Well, we are all, I've just done it there, we're all work in progress.
We are all work in progresses, yeah. We're all whips. I think that has got to be the first one, is listen without interruption, and really genuinely like listen to fully understand. So we don't mean listen without interruption so you just switch off, but you're still present, but your focus is fully on the other individual, like you say. I think the other things are built off what I said before, which is really avoid the urge to relate. It's not about relating in terms of seeking a similarity, because actually that's not what this is about. So I think it's avoiding the urge to relate and avoiding the urge to fix, like save. I think they're also really important as well. And I think, people, there are top tips for you. So I think that's naturally brought this to a wonderful conclusion around how you too can try to be more empathetic, whether that's in work or, as Suzy pointed out, at home. Because actually, this is a skill, if you start building it, it becomes a habit, and it'll positively influence all your relationships. I think what you've got to watch out, and this is a watch out from my experiences, the more you learn about being empathetic, the more you identify and become aware of those who are not empathetic around you. And I know that I fall into the trap historically of therefore then becoming very frustrated with others who are close to me if they're not showing me empathy. Because of my point before of, I just want to be listened to. I'm not asking for advice.
Yeah.
I'm not asking to share in your experience. I will do that in a moment, but can I share mine first? So it's just a watch out, and be kind to yourself and to others, because as we've just said, we're all learning, and it's an awareness piece that people that might not necessarily know about yet, but their intention, I'm sure, is a good one. So Suzy and I will wrap up our top tips as per usual and share them at the end of this episode.
It's now time for Bullshit Bingo, where we call out phrases which get commonly used in the workplace, which, quite frankly, make us cringe. Our Bullshit Bingo today is one that came from our followers on both Instagram and also on LinkedIn too. So it is a popular one. This came in a couple of times. So are we ready?
Yeah.
Are we ready to hear what it is? Okay, it is circling back to things.
God, just immediately roll my eyes. Circling back to things.
Circled those eyes there, right there. Yeah, I've heard this a lot in my corporate career. I have to say, like, let's circle back to Let's circle back to this, or let's circle back to things. Okay, so where are we? What we do? Yeah, this is a really, really common one. Hence why we've probably got multiple replies for this one as an answer to our call out for Bullshit Bingos. Yeah, it's a good one.
It is a good one. Circling back to things. It's funny, isn't it? I just think, oh God, I don't know why the immediate reaction for me was a roll of the eyes. It really felt like, oh God. I think it's because I'm sure I've been in meetings where someone has used this and I'm literally like, really? We're going all the way back there again? I think that's why. I think that's what it reminds me of, when you're literally like, do we have to labour that point anymore? Or have we not already covered that? Or I thought we'd already put that to bed. Oh my God, that is not one that we've used. Bullshit bingo. No one's offered put that to bed. Oh,
right.
Just use
There's
a bullshit
one
bingo
right
within
there.
a bullshit bingo. God damn it. Put that to bed. That's a good one. Not taking away from circling back, but put that to bed is a good one.
It is a good one. So if you've got any other great bullshit bingos, come on, CBBs, we need to hear them so that we can feature them in future episodes. There is actually only 2 more episodes left in this season.
How is there only 2 left?
I know. So keep them coming. You can send us a DM on Instagram at The Coaching Cast. If you are in the moment and you hear one in a meeting, quickly note it down and send us a DM. Or you can email us at hello@thecoachingcast.co.uk and we'll pick the email up, or drop us a message on LinkedIn. Lisa and I are both on there. So whatever you prefer. And we will make sure that they are featured in a future episode.
We are coming to the end of today's episode, where Suzy and I have been exploring the topic of empathy and how to be more empathetic at work. Our top tips and recommendations from today's episode are: number 1, listen without interruption. So really focus on giving your full attention and being fully present. And that's doing so earnestly. No switching off. Number 2, exercise sincere interest. So really think about wanting to learn and wanting to fully understand, and being curious, mine and Suzy's favourite word. And thirdly, avoid the urge to A, relate, and B, to fix or save. So I think when it comes to self-coaching questions for this week, the main one to focus on is really thinking about how can you listen better. I think that is the foundation for everything that we've spoken about today. So really think about, how can I listen even better and give my full attention? What one thing could you do differently to improve both of those? So don't worry if you can't remember the top tips, all those questions, all of that will feature on our Instagram page at The Coaching Cast this week.
We hope you've enjoyed today's episode and have some new ideas to take away and try for yourselves. If you've got any questions, thoughts, or feedback, we love to hear from you, and you can contact us in 3 ways. On email, hello@thecoachingcast.co.uk, on Instagram at thecoachingcast, and you can also find us through our website, thecoachingcast.co.uk, and can get in contact with us there as well.
Your support helps us more than you know. So if you've liked what you've heard today and would like to help us grow this podcast, please do us a favour. Leave us a review on the Apple Podcast app. You have no idea how important these reviews are. Also, hit subscribe wherever you listen, and give us a follow as well on Instagram at The Coaching Cast. Don't forget, you can also watch each of these episodes on our YouTube channel by searching for The Coaching Cast. We both love music and we use it to motivate and energize us. So we like to finish each episode with our personal song recommendation, giving you positivity and energy as you launch into your next meeting. It's my choice this week, and I've chosen I Don't Live Here Anymore by The War on Drugs featuring Lucius. Thanks very much for listening. We love you, CBeebies, and really appreciate you being here with us. Remember, you've got this.